Alrighty, so again, here we are, Tuesday night. We are ready to have our Toastmaster meeting, which we have every Tuesday, 7:40 to 9 o'clock. The mission of a Toastmasters club, as we know, but we always like to repeat, is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth. If you have felt any of those things, please clap loudly. All right, very good. And before we get started, we will turn to our quote master, who is Bob Fogel. Bob, you could take us into the meeting with a couple of your chosen quotes.
Madam President, I like the sound of that quote master. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
It just came out of my head.
Okay, I'll remember that. Happiness, true happiness, is an inner quality. It is a state of mind. If your mind is at peace, you are happy. If your mind is at peace, but you have nothing else, you can be happy. If you have everything the world can give, pleasure, possessions, power, but lack peace of mind, you can never be happy. And that is from Dada Vaswani. He's an Indian spiritual leader. Next, you will have peace not by trying to escape your problems, but by confronting them courageously. You will find peace not in denial, but in victory. And that's from J. Donald Walters, Hindu leader. And finally, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. And that was Jesus Christ.
And in case you haven't figured this out quite yet, the theme for the evening is peace. So Bob has picked some very nice quotes that illustrate that theme. Now we will go ahead and turn it over to our Toastmaster for the evening, Dan Craig.
Thank you, Madam President. Fellow Toastmasters, as Toastmaster, it's my job to keep things moving along. Before I introduce the role players, I'm going to read the quotes that I had on the agenda for peace. The first was, if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. That's Mother Teresa, Albanian saint. Another, peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. That's Albert Einstein, German physicist. Now, onto the role players. I am the timer, so I'll explain that first. My job is to keep track of the times and to give signals to let the speakers know where they are. Jean's speech tonight is 8 to 10 minutes. I'm going to give her a green at 8, a yellow at 9, a red at 10, and she has 30 seconds to finish up. Table topics will be 1 to 2 minute speeches. That's a green at 1, a yellow at 1.5, a red at 2. Again, there's a 30-second grace period at the end, and we always like to mention that in table topics, you can take up to 30 seconds to organize your thoughts before you speak. Our evaluations are typically 2 to 3 minutes long. That's a green at 2, yellow 2.5, red at 3. We may adjust the table topic evaluation time. I will keep track of those times and give a report at the end of the meeting. Next, let me introduce our grammarian for the evening, Bob Fogel.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good evening, Toastmasters. as you may well see, I put in the chat, the word of the day is serenity. And it's achieving the positive state of mind. In a sentence, you go for beauty and serenity and a partner. I must add, since I laid that out for you, that my role as grammarian, I will take note of improper language, as well as any outstanding quotes or words or sayings or even thoughts. And as grammarian, as I stated, as you can see on the chat, it's all laid out for you. And I will take special note when the word serenity is used, I will give you a star by your name. And when called upon, I will give a report at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Mr. President. Mr. Toastmaster, excuse me.
Thank you, Bob.
Hey Bob, funny enough, I thought I was the grammarian and I chose the same word.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Wow. Wow. Okay.
I'll send mine in the chat as well.
Okay. I've got you
With
down
the
as
example.
a counter, Karthik.
Yes,
Are you ready for that?
yes, I'm ready for
Okay, hopefully you can maintain your serenity and shift over to that new role. Please explain your role for us.
that. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and my dear guests. The purpose of our counter is to note words and sounds that are used as crutch or pause filler by anyone who speaks. During the meeting, I will listen for overused words, including and, well, but, so, and I will also listen for filler words, including I will also note when a speaker repeats a word or phrase, such as I, or this means. At the end of the meeting, I will report the number of times that each speaker used these expressions, and I will report at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Karthik. Your excellent explanation makes us all feel just serene in our confidence that you will do so well with it.
Okay.
We're going to hear from Karthik at the end of the meeting, also in the role of joke master. And we'll hear from Bob again later in the meeting when he takes over as general evaluator. Now it's time for us to have the prepared speech. I'm going to introduce Jean's evaluator, Alex Gibbons, who's going to read the objectives of the project.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our viewers at home. Jean will be doing a persuasive speech tonight, and the purpose of this speech and the purpose of the project is for the member to understand the types of persuasive speeches and deliver a persuasive speech at the club meeting. A few things about the speech itself. She can deliver a well-organized, persuasive speech on any topic that she chooses. She can also choose how to appeal to emotions, ethic, or logic in her speech. The speech may be humorous, informal, or any style that she chooses. And let me see. Yeah, and that's pretty much covers the objectives of the speech. So I'll turn back to you, and good luck, Jean.
Thank you, Alex. I'm going to introduce Jean. She's been a Toastmaster since 2006 and is a distinguished Toastmaster, a DTM. She's been an area director, served in a variety of officer roles within the Golden Speakers Club, including 4 times as president, which is her current role. In addition, she serves as club liaison at the Conscious Communicators Toastmaster Club at the Iowa State Penitentiary Maximum Security Facility in Fort Madison, where she is also a member. She's married to Dan Craig, lives north of Fairfield in a house they built in 2000, has 2 beloved pups, Porter and Finley. Tonight, Jean is doing the first speech in Presentation Mastery Level 3. Her title is PM 2.5, Small Matter with Significant Impact. Please help me warmly welcome Jean.
Oh, air and breathing. We all need it and do it. However, these days, clean air is not a given. Honored Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and viewers at home. This summer, we all heard about the Canadian wildfires, where hundreds of fires were burning uncontrolled in remote locations. The negative impact on air quality was such that people who were thousands of miles away, including in Iowa, were affected. Wildfires are only predicted to increase. Inadequate forest management to date and the increasing climate change that we're all experiencing is only contributing to more concentrated, drier vegetation where fires can easily get started and spread, often uncontrolled. Tonight, I am going to zero in on a very problematic element that's in wildfire smoke. It's called particulate matter, or PM 2.5, and the health risks that it involves, and also how you can protect you and yourself and your family. As background, the World Health Organization, the WHO, tracks and monitors air pollutants, including PM 2.5. What is that 2.5? It means the particle is 2.5 micrometers or less. So it's really, really tiny. PM 2.5 comes from the combustion of fossil fuels, vehicle emissions, various industrial processes, agricultural activities, wind and dust that come from unpaved roads and construction projects, and including wildfires, which of course can affect people thousands of miles away. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, the size of the pollution particles are directly related to the risks that they pose for human health. PM 2.5 is so tiny that it can be inhaled and get deeply into the respiratory system and then actually enter the bloodstream as well, going all over the entire body, impacting major organs throughout the body and being just problematic and producing significant health risks. Here are some of the risks. 1, respiratory issues. PM 2.5, when inhaled, irritates the respiratory tract, which can produce coughing, wheezing, phlegm, just shortness of breath. And also it can exacerbate existing respiratory issues like asthma and chronic bronchitis. 2, cardiovascular issues. I've mentioned that PM 2.5 can go from the lungs into the bloodstream, producing inflammation throughout the body. PM 2.5 has been linked to an increased risk of heart attacks, strokes, and other cardiovascular issues. 3, just lung damage. Breathing PM 2.5 can actually damage lung tissue and impair lung function over and above the coughing and the wheezing that we talked about before. And this can lead to chronic long-term respiratory diseases. 4, aggravation of existing health conditions. Inhaling PM 2.5 can actually impact the treatment of diabetes, and it also compromises the ability of the body to fight infections. In other words, the immune system. And finally, but not inclusively, is cognitive issues. PM 2.5 may be linked to cognitive decline and also to increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases. So we're talking your brain. The severity of the health effects can be traced to the duration and the concentration of the exposure at any given time, 2, individual susceptibilities, and 3, existing health conditions. So what does that mean? Individuals that have heart or lung disease, older people, and children are at greater risk for developing negative effects from PM 2.5, particularly when they are breathing and they're exercising outside, because they're breathing faster and they're breathing more deeply. If you're healthy, you may experience some temporary symptoms, coughing, wheezing, the shortness of breath, and the phlegm. And you may, but even if you don't experience anything, you are still accumulating PM 2.5 and incurring the damage as it accumulates over your body. So you may not feel it at this time, but you are setting yourself up for a situation in the future. I emailed out the Environmental Protection Agency Air Quality Index chart. And if you took a quick look at that, and I suggest actually printing that out and putting it on a refrigerator or something, over on the left, you'll see the ranges that the EPA uses to classify levels of risk based on the air quality at the time. And in the middle column, you'll see who is affected, who needs to be concerned. And then on the right side, you'll see what do you need to do. And the range goes from good, moderate, unhealthy, more unhealthy, really unhealthy, hazardous. And that was happening this summer quite a bit. You can also find your air quality index on your weather app on your phone. You can also look at it on a website with your zip code, and you'll see what the number is. You can also click in there and get more information about what is the predominant pollutant in your area at this time. So what can you do to protect yourself? Here are some guidelines from the EPA. First and foremost, monitor the air quality throughout the day. So for example, when I go for a walk with Finley, I check and see what's going on with the weather or with the air quality. And he can't wear a mask, but maybe I might wear a mask, or maybe I'll go for a shorter walk because that's just what it's looking like out there. Secondly, is to, based on bad air quality numbers or sketchy air quality numbers, you want to reduce the amount of exertion you have. This is not the time to go for a run. This is a time to just be easy because you don't want to be taking that farther into your lungs than necessary. Also plan your activities outside for when the air quality is better. So for example, yard work. Everybody loves to do yard work, right? If you have your yard work day planned and you wake up and the quality is not good, stay inside or do a little bit less, watch a movie, and schedule that yard work for some other time. Also, don't exercise near busy roads where vehicle emissions are going to be high. Plan alternate routes and alternate times because rush hour is more emissions as well. When you're driving, keep your vehicle ventilation system on recirculate so you're not taking in the outside air. Finally, wear a N95 or a KN95 correctly, and you can stop up to 95% of the particulate matter, this PM 2.5. Indoors, you can also get elevated levels, particularly when they're high outside. So you might want to consider getting an air purifier. We bought one this summer, Dan and I. We named it Ruth after my mother. So we'll say, well, do you think we should be running Ruth when the air quality is different? Also think about if you're having a fireplace or a wood stove, even candles, they can produce inside particles. I love a fireplace, but this is good information. In conclusion, I have pointed out how PM 2.5 acts in the body and the risks that it produces as a result of how it acts in the body. And finally, I've given you some tips on how to lower, minimize, or even eliminate the PM 2.5 that you're taking in. I hope that I've inspired you and encouraged you to be proactive, take these steps to protect you and your family. If you breathe, and you do, take the steps to be safe and live a long, happy, and healthy life.
Thank you, Jean.
I hope I came across as serene but animated.
That's exactly what I was thinking. We're going to take 2 minutes, everyone. Please write a little bit of feedback and send that to Jean in the chat. Okay, that's 2 minutes, everyone. Thank you. At this point, I'll ask Alex, would you like to proceed to the evaluation, or do you want to come back after we do our table topics?
I believe I'm ready.
All right, very good. Please welcome Alex Givens to evaluate Jean.
Thanks, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our viewers at home. Jean, congratulations for the beautiful speech. I wanted to say that you make it so easy to evaluate you. It's flawless. It's so beautiful every time you deliver a speech, and I'm happy to be here and be your evaluator. So Jean started with a good hook. She took a deep breath and she said air and breathing, and then we knew from the beginning what she was going to be talking about. It was a great way to captivate the audience as well. She organized her speech in an informational format, and she introduced the information that she was going to talk right in the beginning. And she also gave us a little bit of a background story on what she was going to talk. She took us back on the issues with the fires in Canada, so kind of like a chronological way just to paint the picture of the issues that she was going to cover. And then she dove into the explanation of the PM 2.5, which for me, it's I'm very happy that I got to hear her speech because this is new information to me. So I was happy to hear about it. So she explained in detail what PM 2.5 is. And then she took a step further to explain how this particle affects our health. And then she explained, and she gave like 6 ways that inhaling this particle can affect our health. And she also took a step further, not only she explained how it affects health-wise, but also she divided it, like explaining 3 different people, like how it could affect who would be in greater risk, as compared to someone that's healthy, someone that has health issues, or kids. I believe those were the 3 categories that she explained. And so she also provided the audience ahead of time with a chart. She sent us an email, which helped us to understand when she was covering the information, the content. She explained how to read the chart, which make it very easy now to understand, and how we can compare the information that is present in the chart, where to look in our phones. And so she explained everything in details. And then to finalize, she also gave us how to prevent. What can we do, knowing now that we have this information, what can we do to prevent? So, and then she had a very good conclusion where she circled back the main points of her speech. She was very comfortable, serene, and animated. And she used great vocal variety, great gestures. My only suggestion would be maybe a live demonstration just to, like how to use on the phone, but that would be it. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you, Alex. Let's see, what's next on the agenda? We know that the speaker qualified. And it's time now to go to table topics. Our topics master tonight is going to be Art Atkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. So fellow good Toastmasters, I have 11 items, 10 of which are quotes concerning peace and serenity, one of which is a question. So who would like to be the first speaker on a serenity peace topic?
Hello, Art.
Bob Fogel. So choose from item 1 through 11.
I'd like to go with number 3.
Number 3 is a quote. This is Jimi Hendrix quoting a famous Indian saint. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Do you agree with this statement? Yes or no, and why? Yes or no? When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home. That is a deep statement. There's been many Hindus, many Indians, many Christians that have all been searching for serenity, for love, and for peace. One example that sticks out in my mind is I just read a thing on Gandhi. And most of you, if not all of you, know all about Gandhi. But maybe you might not know that how he changed over 2 million minds to follow him was one, as he had faith. And with faith, he also had love. His goal was to bring peace. He did not have armies. He did not have soldiers. He did not have tanks. All he had was faith. Faith in humanity with love, which brought countless lives back to where we all want to be, with peace and love. So back to your question, did Jimi Hendrix have it right? I believe he did. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Bob. So number 3 out of the 11 is gone. Still 10 items. 9 of which are quotes, 1 of which is a question. Who would like to venture? Alex, what number appeals to you?
So let's do number 1.
Okay. From Mother Teresa, peace begins with a smile. Peace begins with a smile. Do you agree with this statement? If so, why?
Thanks, Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters and viewers at home. I agree with this quote from Mother Teresa 100%. I do believe that peace begins with a smile. When we are at peace with ourselves, I think everything in the world that we create, everything around us begins within. So when we are at peace with ourselves, when we are content with ourselves, this is what we will give. We can only give what we have. So I do believe that if that's what we carry, if we carry this inner peace and if we carry this inner contentment, this is what we will radiate to our families, to our communities. And I do believe that if everyone took this approach and looked within to see how, check their emotions and see how they're feeling, I would say that we could absolutely achieve peace in the world if we all individually took that responsibility to check on our feelings, see how we're doing. So yeah, thanks for the question.
Okay. Who's feeling serene? Karthik.
Yes. I'll take the question. I don't know the number, but if you're okay with it, I'll take the question rather than a quote.
I'm sorry, what number?
I'll take the question rather than the quote. If I have that option to do.
The question is number 6. What is peace of mind and how is it developed?
Thank you, table topic master, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I think peace of mind is the perception that we have for the situation that's in front of us, on how we perceive the situation, and that gives us different belief. The same situation perceived in a positive aspect will give a positive belief, and that may give a happiness, whereas the same situation viewed in a negative aspect will give a negative belief, which is again not peace. So I believe perception is what matters, and I resonate with the quote that Bob mentioned initially from Jade J. Donald Walters, which is you will find peace not by trying to escape your problems, but by confronting them courageously. You will find peace not in denial, but in victory. I highly resonate with that quote. As I mentioned, it depends on the problem or the situation that you have in front of you and how you really work through yourself. If one understands the problems that they have in terms of dealing with them, and if they truly accept them as who they are and work through that, they will be able to find peace in that aspect. If I want to say that in a funny way, I could use a quote from Dave Barry, who is a writer, and by the way, and his quote was something like this: "My therapist told me the way to achieve true inner peace. Sorry, my therapist told me the way to achieve true inner peace is to finish what I start. So far, I finished 2 bags of M&M and a chocolate cake. I feel better already." I could say that in a funny way, but again, the answer to the question is it depends on the perception of what one sees. And thank you for the time.
Okay, numbers 1 and 3 and 6 are taken. Dan, would you like 2 or 4 or 5?
How about 4?
Albert Einstein. Peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. Quoting another Indian saint, word for word.
Could you say it again, Art?
Peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding.
I'll see if I can time myself here. Thank you for the question, Mr. Topics Master. That was one of the quotes that I put on the agenda. It credited it to Albert Einstein. You're indicating he was quoting someone else, it sounds like. Anyway, I believe that the sentiment is correct. We've seen enough in our world of the effects of violence and war. For so many years, it seemed like the prevailing sentiment in the Western world, starting particularly with World War I, was that we just had to defeat the enemy. Once the evil Germans or whoever was the enemy at the time was defeated, then peace would reign and everything would be wonderful. But we found out after the world wars, with all the regional wars that have occurred, it's just not true. There just apparently is no end to war once countries try to embark on that strategy as a means to ensure peace. So a radically different angle on the problem is, if we can't fight to achieve peace, what could achieve peace? And certainly understanding would be a good candidate. If the people of the various countries, the leaders of the various countries could understand each other, almost by definition, they couldn't be enemies anymore. Enemies are always the other, the evil, the one who's trying to take something or impose something. But if we understand them fully, we've come to understand that they are basically like us. So understanding would be the way to go. I think, Art, that we have run out of our table topics time. Thank you for the wonderful questions. We're going to take just a couple of minutes here to vote. And here's the timer letting you know who qualified. Bob, Alex, Karthik, and Dan, all qualified. If you'll send a vote to me in the chat. It's time for me to turn the meeting over to the general evaluator, Bob, and I believe he's going to ask Jean to evaluate the table topics. Over to you, Bob.
Toastmaster. As Dan stated, we will be passing it off to Jean to give us a report on the table topics for this evening.
Yes, thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters. See, I have 4 people. I ought to be able to do that in 2 to 3, I think. If Dan are you timing? Probably timing. Oh. Was that a yes?
He's getting there.
Okay. You're muted, Dan.
Okay.
You timing? Okay, great. All right, well, thank you, Mr. General Evaluator and fellow Toastmasters and viewers at home. Bob had the question about when the power of love overcomes the love of power, will we have peace? We'll have peace. Do you agree or disagree? I couldn't quite write all these quotes down verbatim. Bob went ahead and acknowledged it was an interesting question and went in and talked about someone who has an international historical reputation for peace without creating a military situation, and that was Gandhi. He did say that the strength of Gandhi came from his faith, and I think he said something else, but I didn't quite catch that second piece. But anyway, he did give a good explanation of Gandhi, and he wrapped his conclusion back to the question. So that was a nice package. My suggestion to Bob would be that I'd like to see more comparison of love versus power. I felt that some leaning into, well, what's the other side look like when you have love of power? What does that get you or doesn't get you? So that we have a pretty good conclusion by the end. Alex had the question about peace begins with a smile. And I actually wrote here that Alex flipped it a little bit because it sounds like sequentially you smile and then you get peace. And Alex was saying, no, the inner peace happens first and then the smile comes naturally and then you have everybody smiling and it's just wonderful. So I liked that she flipped that. It made sense. I would say I'd like to see Alex tie in the smile portion of the question into the answer, which I kind of did just there, but just make sure that, because then you really lock up that question. Karthik had the question, what is peace of mind and how it's developed? And I was really interested to hear how he was going to do this because I felt like he started talking about peace of mind as a positive perception. And then I thought, but how do you get it? How do you get it? And then he said, well, you get it by facing problems, accepting, straight on, working on them and getting that done. So he did answer the question, what is it and how do you develop it? And then I like that he had a Dave Barry quote because in the Craig household, we love Dave Barry. We read everything Dave Barry. My suggestion, and for it's Karthik and it's also for Dan, is sitting forward a little bit more in your seat, I think makes the audience feel like you're into it, whatever you're saying, and that the audience is going to engage with you more because if you're into it, then hopefully they'll be into it at least half as much as you are. So I would say, watch sitting back too much. And I think it also facilitates making gestures. Finally, Dan had the question about force. And you need to do it with understanding. He agreed. He gave a nice historical background, very solid there. He did wrap up. He said, understanding is the way to go. My suggestion to Dan is still the same. Don't lean back, lean forward a little bit more so you can then get your hands involved and engage the audience more. I don't know if I was serene on that finish. It's hard to have serenity when the clock is ticking down. And back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Jean, for the table topics evaluation. Now, we're going to be moving on to the reports this evening. Our first report, sorry, excuse me, Mr. Timer, did our evaluator qualify?
Both evaluators qualified. Please send a vote to the Toastmaster for Alex or Jean.
The girls, we get it done on time.
This is a surprise to me. I thought that
This is how we roll, gentlemen.
Now, we're going to be moving on to reports for this evening. And as I stated earlier, our first reporter was going to be our timer, Mr. Timer, Dan Craig. Can you take it over?
Thank you, Bob. Jean's talk tonight was 10 minutes 24. In table topics, Bob, 1:35, Alex, 1:33, Karthik, 2:30. A little asterisk there. He actually went over just a smidgen, but I didn't give him a green card till about 1:38. So he gets a little leeway based on the timer's mess. And I had 2:29 in my table topic. Our evaluators, Alex was 3 minutes and 29 seconds. Jean was 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Whoa. Like I say,
They're showing us how it's
girls,
done.
we get it done. We get it done on time.
Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Dan, Mr. Timer. Now we're going to move on to the grammarian report. You'll have to excuse me, I was writing everyone. There we go. Karthik, I use the word perception of peace, and I found that was an interesting quote for the fact that we all have different perceptions of peace, and that's why it stuck out to me. And basically what matters most. And also, I like the quote that Karthik has, says, finish what I started. And I realize he was quoting someone else, but it's still a good quote, that finish what I started. Alex, I really don't have any feedback for what you did for your table topics because I was still focusing on your other report, and so I was on that report. Although I did get part of the smile and everything, and it was a good speech. Then Dan, his the word of the day, or what stuck out to me was sentimental, or sentiment is correct. Prevailing sentiment. And another quote that I like Dan has was peace. It's not true when it came to the war. It's just not true when we find out who our enemies are. And he used the word radical, which I haven't heard for a while. And that is my grammarian report. Now we're going to move on to Karthik, our owl counter. Karthik, take it away.
Thank you, Bob. So for the R counter report, Jean during her speech used thrice a couple times, and then she used 2 repeats. It's not the same word, but it's kind of the same. Breathing 2.5, PM 2.5, and then inhaling 2.5, PM 2.5. It's kind of the same. And then during Alex's evaluation, Alex mentioned 6 times, a couple times, so once. And then in table topics, Bob was clean. Alex used to, once. And Dan, I missed noting down, or I missed doing my role when you spoke. And Jean, she used once, and then she was clean. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Karthik. Karthik, I believe you're up next. You are going to be our joke master for this evening. Take it away.
Yeah. Okay. I have like 3 jokes. Let's see. The first one is from a radio thing that I heard. So what weighs less than blue? What weighs less than the color blue? Light blue. Yeah. Second one is, have you ever wondered why during a crisis they let women and children go first?
More valuable. That's easy.
It's so the men can have some peace and quiet while they think, about what to do next. So
Read the whole thing again.
sorry?
Say the whole thing again.
Again. Have you ever wondered why during a crisis they let women and children go first? It's so the men can have some peace and quiet while they think about what to do next. My last joke for the day is 2 drunk men are talking about, my uncle is resting now in peace. And the friend was like, I have no clue that your uncle died. And the guy who spoke was, no, the one who died was my aunt.
Oh.
That's it for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joke Master. You had some good ones tonight, Karthik. Very good. Now we're going to move on to the Evaluate the Evaluators. And I must add, which I didn't share earlier, that the word of the day that Jean used it, Alex used it, and Dan used it. Just want to let you
used it several times.
Mhm.
you did. I'm sorry.
I used it several times.
Oh, and of course, Art. Yes, you did, Art. So, first of all, my first person was Alex. She gave, when she evaluated Jean's speech, she was giving good use of the gestures throughout the whole thing. That was great. And she also commented on Jean's opener, which was great. And then she also pointed out the structure of Jean's speech. And so that's a sign of a good listener. She gave good feedback on the highlights of that speech and pointed out that Jean's and also point out the highlights of Jean's speech with gestures, use of camera, vocal variety. And I feel that this is a real good use of a good listener, of an evaluator. She didn't so much focus on the content, but how Jean laid her speech out, and that's a good sign. I really didn't have a suggestion. I'm light on suggestions right now. So, and then next was Jean. Again, I like the way Jean started out, because sometimes we can get hung up on the very first person and that can run us over time. And Jean, I felt she was focused on, when out of the gate, she was going to keep that one short and then go right there. Even though she was 3:30, she still made it, and that's great. And she did a good job. Jean also pointed out for suggestions, and she also gave good examples to all of us. And that's what I have for Jean. Good job. And again, like I said, I'm light on suggestions myself, but that's the night.
Ah, good.
Now we're going to be moving on back to our Toastmasters this evening, Mr. Dan Craig. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters, it's time for our meeting awards. Jean, do you have the celebratory ribbons ready? Okay.
Celebratory ribbons are ready. Ribbons are ready.
The ribbons are ready.
Yes.
Best speaker, Jean Symington Craig.
Oh, yay!
Oh. Okay.
I hope you guys got something useful from that. Yeah.
Table topics, drum roll, please. Me.
Yay!
Ducks. All right. Thank you. And now, best evaluator, Jean.
Yay! The Craigs do a family sweep here. Family sweep. You guys are nice.
That's all the damage I can do. I'm going to turn it back over to our president, Jean Symington Craig, for closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. There we have it. We are such a well-oiled machine. We actually do have, in terms of our club business, we have everyone, please correct me, Dan, if this is not true, but I believe we all have our memberships in place.
Yes.
For upcoming, so that's very good. I'm just thinking of other club business. We do have, what's our speech lineup, Dan? Coming up?
Karthik is signed up for
I
next
have
week.
mine next week.
Next week? Okay, good.
Bob's the week after.
That's the first week in October, is that right? Okay.
Alex the week after that, me the week after that. We're on a
Woo!
roll.
Okay, we're doing an autumn roll here. Very good. Okay, well, everyone be busy on that. Does anyone have any business to bring up in any way, shape, or form? Okay.
Dean, I want to understand one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this was discussed in any of the meetings. Maybe I was not present, so I just want to understand. So you sent an email, or we received an email, either from you or Dan, stating our club's thing will be suspended by September. If the one thing that we can do is by March, we need to include one more person to have the club running or something like that, right?
Right. We are starting October 1 with 7 members, and we need to be at 8. We are in what's called low status.
Mm-hmm.
So if we are at 8, we will be at active status, and that's what we want to be at, 8 or higher. So we're back in our low status. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I thought okay. So when I started in last year,
Mhm.
2022, did we have 8 people in the club?
This,
'Cause from my understanding, I thought we have the same group, same people since the time I started. So I was curious, why is it now the case?
I don't remember as far back, but I do know in order to stay in low status and not slide into a suspended motion, you have to have at least 1 month of your dues cycle where you have 8 members. So I don't know what happened before April 1 of this year, but April 1 through September 30th, that whole time period, we had 7. Now we had very consistent members, but we did not go to 8. And that was where we were getting into problems. And I'm happy to talk with you about this, after I adjourn the meeting, if you want to get into the details. It's a
Oh
little,
yeah, I forgot. This is a recorded session. Yeah, we can go ahead.
well, it's a
Forgot.
it's a little complicated, and I learned all my stuff because I'm constantly working with this with the prison club, and kind of skating on the margin because that's what they need. But but we're in good shape. But we do need to have an 8th person. I mean, we really need that 8th person. So that's just what we
Is
need.
there some change in Donna's situation?
No, she's not. She's too busy. She's got in a new education program. She's in a master's program. So
So what
she-
would work out with her this home?
yeah, it worked out with her in terms of what we were trying to do for this period that we're coming to an end on, but she's not going to be able to be a regular member. So anyone who wants to hear more of the details about that, it does make sense, but it's a little foreign sometimes. Stay on. I'm going to go ahead. Do we have any other business to discuss? Anything else? Okay. Well, Karthik is up next at bat. Yay. And everyone else is getting their swing in order and working on it. I'll just go ahead and then I will hammer out the meeting, or what do you call it? Gavel out the meeting. Yay.
Adjourn the meeting. Yeah.
Adjourn the meeting. Okay.